Today, I want to talk to you about the newest viral sensation, a morning routine. Now, it's not a new concept, like by any means. It's something that even I have been reading about for years and even seeing whole sermons dedicated to this idea of what your morning should look like, especially as a man of God. But it was something that I thought was just a catchy thing to say and catchy thing to do, and things that most of the holier than thou kind of individuals were really, really into how they spent their mornings. But I've been on a journey for the past 100 days, really trying to get closer to God and really trying to get after the goals God had for my life. And one of those things I did some research on was, is God really looking for me to get up early and spend that time with him? I'm tired. Like, I would rather sleep in. I would rather, you know, get as much rest as I possibly can. And so I went to go look to see if this was an actual biblical concept. And so today I want to talk to you about, one, not only what that 100-day journey looked like for me as I was going through and chasing God's goals, and really kind of diving into what my morning routine became and what it is now. So, welcome to another episode of the Learning Manhood podcast. I'm your host, Eddie. I'm excited to hop into this one with you because I really, really, really enjoyed this 100-day challenge. It was 100 days of God's goals for my growth, right? It was a very difficult concept for me. I think I talked about it before, where really I started out, writing out my own goals. Like, what do I want to accomplish this year? What are the things that I want to get after? And it kind of hit me in my chest, like, it really resonated with me. The question, what does God want you to accomplish this year? What does he want you to get after? And that kind of hit me in a way that I wasn't really was prepared for. So I spent some time going down the rabbit hole of looking through scripture and trying to figure out, what are God's goals for me? What is it that He wants me to accomplish? And one of those things was, I decided that I was going to start every day with solitude and prayer. And that was probably one of the most difficult pieces of this journey for me, if I'm 100% honest. Been in the military for something like 19 years at this point, and most of that time I was spent on odd shifts, right? Where I was working, 3 to midnight, or, midnight to 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, that kind of thing. And so I've been cultivated in this habit of being a night owl. I've often found myself very awake in the middle of the night when the world is asleep, and very exhausted trying to get an early start on the day. Most people would assume it would be the opposite because, you hear about basic training. We get trained to wake up early and just go all day. But as time goes on, shifts, mission requirements, I've been very good at staying up late. So it was a very difficult uh, journey for me to get through this. But I found that it was very effective. So I kind of want to break down what it was, what did my morning actually look like, and how I was able to do so consistently. First of all, the plan was simple: getting up every morning at 4:30 in the morning. That sounds simple, but it was not, right? Getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Why 4:30? For me, I generally leave the house to go to work um, about 6:30 in the morning. So getting up at 4:30 gave me ample opportunity to get up, spend this time, read the word, pray, and all that stuff before I had to get ready and walk out the house. Um, Generally, I was waking up at 5:30, 5:45 ish, if I'm being real, getting a bunch of stuff, together real quick and heading out the door. So the plan was to get up at 4:30 every morning and spend about an hour, really just sitting down, praying, and reading the Bible. And so it was a very tough start. There were several days, especially in the beginning, where I struggled to get out of bed, struggled to figure out, like, what is my motivation to do this when I can just hit snooze and go back to sleep. Uh, but I found very quickly that if I got up out of bed and I started reading my Bible and started praying, that I didn't know either where to start in the Bible or didn't know what I should be praying for. So I instituted bringing in a journal. And that really began to help me kind of dissect some of these prayers. And sometimes those journal entries were just like, God, this sucks. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep like right now. Like, how about bless me with some more sleep? Like, that would be ideal. But it was getting me in the habit of really spending time and opportunity to just spend time with God. Uh, I instituted a Bible study plan so that way I had a direction to go in when I was reading my word every morning. And in the first few weeks were miserable. Maybe week one and week two were tough. Like, I was very motivated to get into this journey, but the discipline part had to kick in, right? And so early on, I was struggling. There were days that I missed that I ended up actually, hitting snooze enough times where I didn't even remember hitting snooze. I would actually wake up and be like, holy crap, it's time to leave. Like, I messed that all up. Um, but I continued sticking with it to the point where now, on a regular basis, I get up without the alarm to go downstairs and sit in my office and pray and read the word, and I found that I really enjoy that time. I really enjoy that time. I find that even in our secular media, right? If I'm looking at all these people online right now that are talking about their morning routines, people ask them all these questions. It's just like, what happens when you don't do this morning routine? And a lot of people are saying the same thing. When I don't do this, my whole day sucks. And that's something that resonates with me. Like, when I don't, or when I'm not able to, or I don't get up out of bed and I spend that time just journaling and praying and seeking the word, I'm not really in my best frame of mind when I leave the house. I found that when I stick to this path, that I'm able to really set my mind up to be prepared to walk out of my house for the day. I found that it was easier to not only listen to God throughout my day, but to connect with others. And I think that's because I spent the time to get my mind right before I left the house. I had my mind on God before I went to go interact with anyone else. So I got some scriptures that I kind of were using as reference points to why this was a thing. Because when I went to go look it up, I was like, man, does anyone actually do this in the Bible? And all these great men were doing this in the Bible, right? We had Joshua, we had David, we had Jesus. Like, all these people were getting up and having this moment with God before they got to starting their day. So I wanted to share like some reference verses that you can use to be able to be prepared to, one, understand that this is biblical knowledge that's being applied in the world, right? Don't let the world make you believe that, oh, the greatest CEOs and productivity hackers are who came up with this early morning routine thing. This has been going on since the Bible, right? um, so the first verse is Mark 1 and 35. And rising very early in the morning while it was still dark, he departed and went out to a desolate place, and there he prayed. Now that is Jesus, right? Getting up before the sun comes up to go spend time with God. For me, it really kind of boiled down to really looking at what my morning routine was. And usually it was get up right before, like, with just enough time to brush my teeth, wash my face, get dressed, and get out the door. Maybe grab a cup of coffee on the way. Um, and spend time on my phone and just, kind of do nothing of real productivity first thing in the morning, to reshifting that to like, okay, I'm going to put all these things down. Uh, and it actually gave me time, if I'm going to make sure that before I touch my phone, well, not just touch my phone, but start scrolling on my phone or anything like that, I'll pick up my phone, walk downstairs, make some coffee, and then I'll just sit down with God before I dive into the notifications I got over the evening, to really just sit with God. And the first thing I want you to really look at is you got to find your place of prayer. For me, it was my office. I have a dedicated space where I can just sit and be alone. For you, it might be in your closet, in your bathroom, in your truck, in your chair, in your garage. Like, But it's important to find that place where you can have this non-negotiable appointment with God, right? You want to have an opportunity to go to this place and know that you can check in with God first. Um, all of us have different sleep schedules. All of us are on different schedules. And so while I think it's very important now that I've done it to start first thing in the morning, I would say take your normal alarm clock, set it 20 minutes earlier. You don't have to do a whole hour like I was doing. Set it 20 minutes earlier. Get up, check in with God first. The second verse I want to give you is from Psalms 5 and 3. O Lord, in the morning you hear my voice, and in the morning I prepare a sacrifice for you and watch. This is David, right? He didn't just pray first thing in the morning, he prepared his heart and then watched. And that's kind of what I was getting into, is just like I was able to go out into the day prepared for God to move for me. I was expecting God to respond on the things that I journaled about, like, Lord, I'm having trouble with this. This is really irritating me, or this is going on in my world. I need help. I need guidance. And that gave me an opportunity to start my day by giving God my plans and my worries, and then got to look for him in those details. I always am going to recommend that you write things down, always. But this is a good example of things that you can write down right now as you pray. Just what are things that you're looking for God to move on? I found that once I started writing these things down, I could go back a couple of days and be like, holy cow, God answered this. I didn't even pay attention to it, and God answered it. I was complaining about this, and now this problem is gone, right? So take the time to really write down and spend that moment. Uh, you don't have to write it down in an actual journal like I did. You can use your note app on your phone or whatever, what have you. But the next verse I want to get into is Lamentations 3:22 through 23. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. God's mercy resets for us every day. So there were days where like I felt so guilty that I didn't get up out of bed. I didn't get up out of bed and I was guilty. I felt bad and I was just like, no, we have to continue to strive. Like God's going to give me grace for this. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. His love doesn't run out. So I take a moment and say thank you every morning for, that faithfulness, that fact that we've been able to have a moment where we can reset and continue to grow. Um, I even went so far as to like don't make fun of me. Like make what is called a part of my journal is called the mercy journal, where I just write down the things that I dropped the ball on. It's like, oh God, thank you for giving me grace for this because I messed this up. I got mad at my kids or things like that. But it gave me an opportunity to have a attitude of gratitude as I went throughout my day. So long story short, getting up every morning and going straight to scrolling or going straight to, straight to your day will get you through the day. Absolutely. But it doesn't connect you with what your lifeline really is, what your purpose really is. And I found that over the course of this 100 days, that I have found more of my purpose getting up first thing in the morning and spending that time with God than I have in the last several years of my life. Years of my life. And to me, while I would love to sleep in, that purpose and those moments with God are so much more worth it, so much more worth it. It has effectively changed my life. Part of the reason why we're doing this podcast right here and now is because I was looking for what God asked me to do. And he was like, I've been told you, get back to work. And so here I am doing a podcast, having a conversation with you, trying to spread some love and try to spread some knowledge. So if this helped you and you're thinking about starting getting your mornings right with God, spending just 15, 20 minutes, then let me know. Hit the like button, share it. Those of you that are, on YouTube watching me record these things for our brothers and sisters out here, like leave a comment, share it with somebody. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to really, be able to spread this kind of love and this growth for our brothers out here. So I appreciate you spending time with me. I appreciate you locking in. I appreciate if you take the time to actually start your morning routine, let me know because it was not easy and I will definitely be here to encourage you along the way. Other than that, brothers, God bless. I look forward to hanging out with you on the next one. Check you later.